For many years, I tried to get the women in the family interested in sporting clay shooting. To no avail. I've never been able to get any of them to be as interested in it as I am. This could be because of differences in gender. It might not be. I'm not really sure. But today, in Module 2 on gender, we're going to talk about differences in the way men's and women's brains are made up, and also differences in brain chemistry and socialization. I want to make something perfectly clear before we go on, and that is that we are not trying to stereotype anybody, but there are measurable differences between men and women, and we need to talk about some of those things, and then you can be the judge whether it's true for you and true for other people in your family. So once again, today we're going to talk about physical brains and some gender socialization issues. Let's start with the physical brain. We're going to talk about two things: brain structure and brain chemistry. See, aren't these nice? You learned something from public speaking, didn't you? First, you know that the brain has two halves. Typically it's called gray matter, and in between the gray matter are these little squiggly connecting lines called the corpus callosum. They're typically called white matter, and they're not really red like they are in this picture. The difference between men and women is that women have more of these corpus callosum kind of connectors in their brain, and the effect of that is that they can maneuver information a little bit more easily than men between two sides of the brain. This is a physically measurable difference. Now, women, because they have more of these things, are a little bit better at multitasking. And guys are typically a little bit better at focusing on one thing at a time. Also, women can access both the left and right side of the brain for verbal skills, but men only can access the left side of the brain for verbal skills. So there really are some differences in the corpus callosum. Also, let's talk about brain chemistry. There's this chemical called oxytocin that everybody makes, but women make a little more of it than men. It's actually made in the, you're going to love this, hippocampus, which is right in kind of like the center of the brain. And oxytocin is the chemical that causes us to want to bond with other human beings. And women have a little bit more than that. So the effect is that bonding and the emotionality of relationships is typically a little bit more intense for women than it is for men. Again, I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but that's how it is. The next thing we're going to talk about is socialization. Around the time you're roughly 2 or 3 years old and you can identify one parent or the other as being of the same sex as you, you will often start to model behavior. Again, not always true in every single case, but typically pretty true. And so you begin to model that behavior on your own, and you make, in your own little 3-year-old way, some conclusions about, okay, moms do this and dads do that. Well, later on, society takes over, and through movies and TV and just the way society is, we have a tendency, even here in 2020, to reinforce these kinds of stereotypes, although a lot of that is really changing now, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 20 or 30 years. But I will tell you this. I have 2 little nieces that live across the street, and when you go into their house, of course, it's filled with toys. All of the toys are pink and purple. It's all doll houses and dolls and things that traditionally little girls would like. Over the hill, I have these 2 neighbor boys. You go into their house and it's trucks and cars and the kinds of things that traditionally boys would like. The oldest of these kids is only 9 years old, so you know, again, take what you will out of that. Is it that their parents are kind of giving them things that they think they would want or they should have, or is it that maybe because of their brains they gravitate toward one thing or the other? I'm not sure anybody's really sure of that. But anyway, so here's what I want you to do. Have a look at the video which is an interview from a couple named Trish and Randy. That would be video 5. That's the last video in this module. I'm going to send you a couple of links to things I want you to read, and then go online and take quiz 2, which should be up by, let's say, something like Tuesday or Wednesday. Okay? Now let's see if I can break a clay with my shotgun. Pull. That's what I'm talking about.
That one's dead.
That one's dead.